Room and powered by DemeraraWaves.com.
A very good day to you with the news at this time. I am Tiana Jordan. To begin the news, here is a look at the lead stories. Today is World AIDS Day, and Guyana and the rest of the Caribbean have slipped in its target to end AIDS due to the coronavirus pandemic. The Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit says a shipping container intercepted with bags of cocaine among boxes of rum was not tampered in Guyana. GCOM appears set to appoint a former Deputy Chief Elections Officer as the new Chief Elections Officer. And in regional news, hunger is soaring in Latin America and the Caribbean. Trinidad is studying how to spend a financial bailout from the International Monetary Fund. The details of these and other stories will be coming up right here in just a moment.
Here is an unbelievable offer from News Talk Radio Guyana 103.1 FM. You can send season's greetings December 24, 25, 26, and 27, and Happy New Year's greetings December 31 and January 1, 6 times each day, plus streaming of your image on Facebook on Christmas Day and New Year's Day, plus a 5-minute live broadcast from your firm. All this for just $20,000 or 4 times each day for $15,000. Call 614-8205 or 692-9400 for details and say season's greetings through 103.1 FM.
And now the news in detail. The Pan-Caribbean Partnership Against HIV/AIDS, PANCAP, says the COVID-19 pandemic has caused a setback in the fight against HIV/AIDS. The director of PANCAP, Dr. Rosamond Adams, says Guyana and the rest of the Caribbean will now have to redouble their efforts to achieve the same target.
At the end of 2020, the Caribbean lagged behind the global targets for ending AIDS. With the disruptions from the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, we expect to be off track at the end of this year. Therefore, this is the time for all of us to work together more than ever to bring us back on track and to accelerate progress towards eliminating AIDS by 2030.
UNAIDS Caribbean hopes that together with the effective implementation of HIV prevention, treatment, and care best practices, the people-centered 2021 to 2026 Global AIDS Strategy will get every country and community on track to eliminate AIDS as a public health threat by 2030. He promises that PANCAP will continue to work with all stakeholders.
The Pan-Caribbean Partnership Against HIV and AIDS PANCAP will continue to work with national programs, civil society organizations, donor agencies, and other stakeholders to ensure a coordinated regional response that focuses not only on biomedical interventions but also on other determinants such as stigma and discrimination, barriers to access, prevention and care services, and behavior change that require the participation of everyone, including women and adolescent girls and key populations.
In related news, in commemoration of World AIDS Day 2021, UNAIDS Caribbean has launched the social media campaign #EndAIDSCaribbean. The Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit, CANU, says more than 1,000 pounds of cocaine found among a shipment of rum was placed in the shipping container while it was transiting another Caribbean country. CANU did not name the country, but the Dutch publication named Crime Site says the shipping container passed through the Dominican Republic. CANU says the container spent 5 days in that Caribbean country. The agency says all the security protocols were followed while the container was in Guyana. The 7-member Guyana Elections Commission, GCOM, on Tuesday appeared split down the middle over whether former Deputy Chief Election Officer, the CEO, Vishnu Prasad, should be appointed as Chief Election Officer CEO. Pro-People's Progressive Party PPP Elections Commissioner Bibi Shadiq is quite confident that Mr. Prasad could be appointed, possibly at the end of the week, as the new administrative head of the commission. She says he is the only applicant who is experienced and qualified in the area of elections management. Ms. Shadiq said there is urgent need for a new CEO because of the backlog of administrative decisions that have to be made. However, a Partnership for National Unity plus Alliance for Change, APNU plus AFC, aligned Elections Commissioner Vincent Alexander charged that Mr. Prasad's tenure as Public Relations Officer could not be considered senior management based on the elections management body's own organogram. He says the PRO position is on Scale 8 and the person is not required to manage elections. Minister Alexander also argued that Mr. Prasad's 3-year stint as the CEO could not add up to 10 years' experience. While Mr. Prasad had been PRO, he had worked on civic and voter education, but Mr. Alexander countered that it had not been long enough to add up to 10 years. The non-governmental civil society organization, Article 13, fears that hefty fines and long jail terms will discourage persons from taking up certain jobs at the Guyana Elections Commission, GECOM. Article 13 made known its position about the government's proposed amendments to the Representation of the People Act. One of them includes a $10 million fine and life imprisonment for the Chief Elections Officer if he commits certain election offenses. But the recently formed civil society organization fears that if these proposals make their way into the law, they can have a chilling effect on the willingness of citizens to serve for a paltry sum as clerks on election day. Although already, leader of the Alliance for Change, Attorney-at-Law Kemraj Ramjatan, has said that persons could be scared away from taking up the jobs, leaving a GECOM to hire persons of a lower caliber. People's National Congress Reform PNCR Executive Member Christopher Jones says the appointment of a new leader and executive of his party will mark the start of campaigning for the next general and regional elections. He was speaking at an outreach meeting in Linden for Aubrey Norton, who is one of 3 candidates vying for the post of leader. Mr. Jones is campaigning for the position of Vice Chairman of the PNCR.
Comrades, these elections for the PNC is essentially the start of the party's election campaign. And every person elected at these Congress is essentially setting that strategic group of individuals who will hit the ground running to get the work done that is necessary.
Mr. Jones says he will work exclusively with whoever is elected the next leader of the PNCR to revive his party's youth arm, the Guyana Youth and Student Movement.
And my intention, once elected as vice chairman, is to work with that committee of which they will point us to every part in every region for us to form GYSN groups. I can make a commitment to you here tonight and the next leader of the party and the leadership of the party that once elected vice chairman, within the first 6 months of 2022, the Guyana Youth and Student Movement will host its biannual Delegates Congress, of which you will have members from all parts of this country.
He says this will be crucial for PNCR to capitalize on the large number of youths. And now in regional news. Hunger in Latin America and the Caribbean is at its highest level since 2000, after a 30% increase in the number of people experiencing hunger between 2019 and 2020. According to a new United Nations report on the Regional Survey for Food Security and Nutrition 2021, in just 1 year, the number of people suffering from hunger has increased by 13.8 million to a total of 59.7 million people. Regional representative of the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, Julio Borgade, says Latin America and the Caribbean face a critical food security situation. He notes that the number of people suffering from hunger has increased by almost 79% between 2014 and 2020. While the COVID pandemic has exacerbated the situation, Director of the International Fund for Agricultural Development for Latin America and the Caribbean, Rosanna Pilastri, says hunger has been on the rise since 2014. He recommends that deep vulnerabilities should be addressed in food systems, make them more inclusive and sustainable, and ensure they provide well-being to the people who feed societies. The 2021 Regional Review of Food Security and Nutrition is a joint publication of FAO, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, the World Health Organization, the World Food Programme, and the United Nations Children's Fund. The report states that food insecurity affects 41% of the population, 4 in 10 people in the region. 261 million experience moderate or severe food insecurity in 2020, 60 million more than in 2019, an increase of 9 percentage points, the largest increase compared to other world regions. The Brazilian government says police burned 131 boats used by illegal gold prospectors in the heart of the Amazon rainforest. The operation marked a shift in the direction of President Jair Bolsonaro's government, which has seen an increase in deforestation after the initial weakening of environmental protections and a more lenient approach to prospectors tapping natural resources in the region. Attorney General Anderson Torres described the raid as quick and efficient. Federal police were assisted by agents from the Brazilian Navy and the Environmental Enforcement Agency. Most of the fires were east of Manaus, the state capital of Amazonas, in an area of dense forest. Smoke rose over the Madeira River on Saturday, where hundreds of boats had been seen gathering as miners searched for gold over the past week. Miners have traditionally been known for polluting rivers in the Amazon and for opening the way for loggers and ranchers who are destroying the pristine areas. Local media said 3 people had been jailed and an unspecified amount of gold seized during the operation. Meanwhile, many local residents complained that the raid had left them stranded in the rainforest. Many miners live on their boats, which often carry satellite television, hammocks, and pets. A miner says the federal police went with pepper spray and ordered everyone to leave. Amazonas prospectors said in a statement that authorities must coordinate a plan within 30 days to end the presence of mining boats in Madeira. Barbados's newly minted national hero, Robin Rihanna Fenty, is calling on youths to play a major role in her country's development. She made her remarks after the investiture. She was declared a national hero to mark Barbados's transition from a British constitutional monarchy to a republic.
I love Barbados, I love you guys, and I pray that the youth continue to push Barbados forward. I'm so proud of you.
Rihanna says being made a national hero is the best recognition she has received from the land of her birth, more than any she has ever received.
Prime Minister Mia Mottley, thank you so much for honoring me in this way. I have traveled the world and received several awards and recognitions, but nothing Nothing compares to being recognized in the soil that you grew in. So I thank you so much for this. Thank you.
International singer Barbados's Robin Rihanna Fenty. Trinidad and Tobago's Minister of Finance, Com Imbert, is consulting local and foreign experts as to how to spend $644 million in funding from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, known as Special Drawing Rights, SDRs. He was replying to a question by opposition Senator Wade Mark. SDR is not a currency, but an artificial currency instrument created by the IMF to supplement the official reserves of its member countries and provide them with liquidity. Imbert listed various uses to which the asset could be put, including to strengthen Trinidad and Tobago's foreign reserves, by COVID-19 relief such as personal protective equipment or pharmaceutical medical supplies like pharmaceuticals. He says the Trinidad and Tobago government is also contemplating replacing expensive foreign debt with cheaper foreign debt, promote non-energy growth, fund key infrastructure, carbon capture, tourism or agriculture development, or provide foreign exchange for local manufacturers. And now for the international news, let's head over to the BBC World Service.
Hello, this is Julie Candler with the BBC News. The European Union has set out its plan to invest more than $300 billion in infrastructure, digital and climate projects around the world by 2027. The Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the Global Gateway programme was a true alternative to China.
It is the kind of modern infrastructure that holds the key to tackle the challenges we have today. First of all, of course, fighting climate change, but also the question of sustainable development, the question of global health security and resilient, open, reliable supply chains.
Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative has invested billions of dollars in more than 70 countries over the last 8 years. Ms von der Leyen said the EU would offer a different model, providing finance on fair and favourable terms to limit the risk of debt problems. The European Commission has proposed that member states facing a migrant border crisis with Belarus be allowed to suspend some asylum rules. The European Parliament is yet to be consulted on the measures. The details from Nick Beak.
By the Commission's own admission, the situation on the Belarus border is now de-escalating. But still, it says Poland, Lithuania and Latvia need more flexibility to deal with an ongoing crisis. The biggest change would allow people to be held in asylum processing centres for up to 16 weeks. There would also be quicker deportation of failed asylum seekers. The Commission rejects this is an erosion of fundamental human rights.
Governments around the world are ramping up coronavirus prevention measures and closely tracking new infections of the Omicron variant as they weigh up its potential threat. The European Union says Pfizer-BioNTech is now able to bring forward deliveries of its vaccine for children across the bloc. Naomi Grimley reports.
Scientists don't yet know the full picture about the new Omicron variant, but Germany's lawmakers are to debate whether to bring in mandatory vaccination. The incoming Chancellor Olaf Scholz says he's in favour. And despite the World Health Organization pleading with countries not to resort to travel bans, several nations have tightened their rules. From Friday, Hong Kong has expanded its entry ban for non-residents to 3 more countries: Japan, Portugal and Sweden.
The BBC has learned that Ugandan ground troops have crossed into the neighbouring Democratic Republic of Congo to fight rebels linked to the Islamic State group. On Monday, both countries confirmed that joint air and artillery strikes against ADF bases had begun. Uganda blames the ADF for a series of recent bombings in the country. The opposition has strongly criticised the deployment, which had not been approved by Parliament. World News from the BBC. Russia says US diplomats who've served at their embassy in Moscow for more than 3 years will have to leave by the end of January. Russian officials say the move is in reciprocation for last week's US order to expel 27 Russian diplomats by the end of the same month. There have been multiple similar expulsions in recent years. Russia says more than 100 of its diplomats have been forced to leave the US since relations deteriorated in 2016. The NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg has said the alliance remains unwavering in its support for Ukraine's territorial integrity. He was speaking after a meeting of NATO foreign ministers in Latvia.
Ministers made clear any future Russian aggression would come at a high price and have serious political and economic consequences for Russia.
A build-up of Russian forces near Ukraine has raised fears of an invasion 8 years after Russia annexed Crimea and fomented a rebellion in the Donbas region. Russia denies it's preparing an attack and says the tensions are caused by NATO's support for Ukraine. Ethiopia says its forces have retaken control of several towns in the Amhara region, previously being held by Tigrayan rebels. Earlier, the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said he was leaving the capital, Addis Ababa, to direct operations on the front lines. It's not been possible to independently verify the reports of territory changing hands. Researchers have revealed for the first time how a relatively unknown species of dolphin hunts for its deep-water prey. Scientists at the University of Amsterdam say Risso's dolphins use a unique spinning technique to descend at high speed to a layer of ocean rich in fish and squid. They say the dives are an energy-efficient way for the animals to reach depths of up to 600 metres. BBC News.
And now to end the news, here is a recap of the leads. Today is World AIDS Day, and Guyana and the rest of the Caribbean have slipped in its target to end AIDS due to the coronavirus pandemic. The Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit says a shipping container intercepted with bags of cocaine among boxes of rum was not tampered in Guyana. GCOM appears set to appoint a former Deputy Chief Elections Officer as the new Chief Elections Officer. And in regional news, hunger is soaring in Latin America and the Caribbean. Trinidad is studying how to spend a financial bailout from the International Monetary Fund. And that's the end of the news.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.